Hi, this is Stephen Pope. I'm My Amazon Guy. I'm joined today again with Tyler Jefcoat. We are going to be talking about what has been really in the buzz, companies buying other Amazon accounts and merging them all together and starting some new operations. So glad you could join me today, Tyler. I'm going to introduce myself for your audience, and I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, and then we'll dive right in. So I have an agency called My Amazon Guy. We help other people sell on Amazon, and we have seen a really big spike in demand lately. Services ranging everything from loading accounts, loading products, to advertising and everything in between. So, Tyler, you are the accounting whiz. Tell us about what you do in your company.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I'm Tyler Jefcoat. My company is Seller Accountant. You can find us at selleraccountant.com. And I would agree with you, Stephen. Things have been wild over the past few months as we have seen our business kind of shift towards the mergers and acquisitions world. And it's because of maybe what you were alluding to there a minute ago. It's just that's kind of where the market is right now. We're seeing increased movement from investment firms, and so I think the reason you and I wanted to talk today is just to try to kind of puzzle a little bit about over why. What are the things that are maybe happening in the marketplace, that would be leading to mass acquisitions. So just to kind of dive in a little bit, if you guys have never heard of an industry life cycle, you would have recognized the curve if you can see it. And essentially, it shows every new thing has really, really slow adoption at the beginning. And then it catches steam and goes into a growth curve that looks exponential. And it's amazing in the business world because this is where you start seeing massive profitability in the industry. But eventually, you see in any industry, things kind of start to level out and kind of enter a phase called maturity. And when an industry enters maturity, your better operators are going to win. This means the guys who are more sophisticated, who can really capture more of the margins. And so this is why this is important today. This is why, Stephen, you and I, as we were talking the other day, thought we should record this video, is that we are not saying that Amazon is declining. By no means is Amazon declining. They're killing it. This is a great time to own Amazon stock. I would want to own it probably for the next 5 years. But since 2000, which is when the third-party marketplace first came into existence, we have seen third-party sellers like us go from being nothing to being more than half of Amazon's revenue. And eventually there's going to be a slowing in that growth. And I think there are some things, Stephen, on the table right now that might be leading in that direction. So
in this video, we're going to talk about what you can do as somebody who sells on Amazon, or if you're trying to get in the game and you're like, hey, I've heard about everybody else doing this, I want to sell on Amazon, what this means for you and why that's important. So quite a few different topic areas we're going to talk about to accomplish that. So I agree. Amazon is growing 2 to 3 times faster than every other e-commerce channel, and e-commerce is growing at a sizable 7 to 10% every year. And brick and mortar is slight decline and not a big decline. So e-commerce, if you're not on Amazon today, you're kind of irrelevant, right? But there are many companies that are still joining late to the game. And there are many private labelers out there who have flooded the market and have made multi-million-dollar brands. So these are all opportunities. But let's dive into that industry life cycle. So where do you think we are in the cycle today?
If I had to guess, and if we were looking at a picture of it where you have this exponential vertical increase, I would guess that we're 3/4 of the way up that increase, meaning we haven't quite reached the maturity phase. But so things are still growing. This is a great time to be a seller again because things are growing rapidly. The number of new customers entering the Amazon space to buy from you is still outstripping the amount of competition. And so here's another thing about the product or industry life cycle is that your early entrants, the companies that got in before things really got saturated, they were profitable kind of regardless of how good they were at executing. What I mean by that is you didn't really have to optimize your advertising 10 years ago. You really didn't have to optimize your fulfillment. You didn't really have to optimize your production because Amazon was growing so quickly and literally has been for the last decade that you could make a killing kind of regardless, as long as there was a market for your product. And that's the part that kind of concerns me right now, because I see us getting close enough to the maturity phase on this industry, kind of this third-party merchant industry, that it's going to start leveling off. And those guys that really know how to manage logistics and advertising, those guys that really know how to source their own products and have some IP, are going to be more successful in the next few years.
Yeah, I remember a decade ago, starting to do that Amazon beta advertising, and I was getting clicks for 2 cents a click for rice cookers, and I was like dominating. Nobody else was bidding on rice cookers back then, and nowadays it's like, man, you're lucky if you can get a 75-cent bid in home goods, let alone beauty, $2.50, let alone technology north of $3. Those are some of the most competitive categories, and so we're seeing a lot of the outcome of all of these people showing up on Amazon. That you've enjoyed all of those strong profits early on. Now it's, Amazon's become a third partner, right? Like they're taking 15% referral fee. They're taking another 10% in fulfillment costs, and then maybe another 5 to 10% in storage fees and advertising. And so after all is said and done, 33% is going to Amazon. and what Amazon has done to the market is made everything affordable and quick. So it's made it so that your profits are going down a little bit over time, and more people are showing up. So what do you do about that? And I think that's a question that you have to think about to understand where you're going to go with your strategy. So what would you do, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I think, again, just to make sure this isn't some kind of a panic video here, I think this is a fantastic time to be an Amazon seller because of this classic flywheel illustration that Bezos drew on a napkin something like 20 years ago. They are adding new sellers, which we actually don't love that, because we'd love to be able to capture more of those products, more of the profits from selling our products. But because they're adding the selection and the customer experience, and it's driving more and more traffic, because more than half of all product searches now start on Amazon, because Amazon is consistently able to deliver industry-leading return on advertising, Amazon is still the right place to be. Stephen, you said this a minute ago. There's a reason the bigger brands are starting to jump into Amazon. And it's because you really are irrelevant online unless you have an Amazon presence. And so for our listeners here, or the guys who are watching this video who already have a presence on Amazon, good for you. That's the reason we're having this video, is to say you're in a great spot, but now's a moment when you need to start thinking more strategically about the long-term implications of your business.
So just to kind of share that flywheel you were talking about, share my screen here real quick so you can see lower. Actually, walk us through this. Tell me where do you start on this flywheel?
Well, I think the point is it's hard to know where to start, but basically what Amazon has done so well over the last 15 years is attract sellers. You can kind of see that at about 9 o'clock on the clock there. And the sellers are bringing increased selection. So our customers, who are always most important in Amazon's eyes, now have better selection. There's also more competition, so they're going to get lower prices. And so that customer experience, I mean, think about this. We all know this intuitively, but buying something on Amazon is just easier and better as a customer. There's a reason that my family buys everything on Amazon Prime. It's because the customer experience is not just great, but gets better every single year. And so as that customer experience continues to improve, there's more and more customers and more traffic and more purchases and more revenue, which then drives more sellers into the wheel. So what Bezos hypothesized 20 years ago is that this virtuous cycle, as he called it, would self-perpetuate, creating growth for all parties involved. And so far, he's been right. But what you have to realize here is that eventually there's going to be enough mass on the third-party marketplace, enough of millions of products, that you kind of, Stephen, you alluded to this a minute ago, you can get kind of lost in the mountain of other advertisers. You can get lost in the sheer volume of competitors that are selling the same thing you're selling, or maybe just a slight variation.
Yeah, so, just take it off the screen there. One of the 2 households in America right now have Amazon Prime.
Right.
Every year they're adding something new. They even added Twitch, became a partner with them. mean, they're just continually adding services. So it's like a no-brainer to become a Prime member, right? They invented a selling holiday in July called Amazon Prime Day. And get this, Amazon.com did not foresee the amount of growth that it actually caused Amazon.com to go down for several hours during Prime Day. So it's like the most important holiday for Amazon, and they couldn't fully execute it because it was so big. That's the ridiculous nature of the beast right now, and
That's right.
And it's an opportunity.
Yes,
so just to kind of second what you were saying, this is not supposed to be a scare video so much as like we're talking real about what's happening in the marketplace and what you can do to take advantage of it.
That's exactly right. And so, but the thing that I think we have to realize, and part of this, even looking at Amazon's ability to handle the volume, that is kind of unbelievable. One of the things that they're having a hard time handling the volume in is their fulfillment centers. So kind of for the first time ever, you're starting to see Amazon. I don't know if any of you guys that are sellers out there know this. For the past 10 years, Amazon has been begging and pleading for you to bring your inventory into FBA. They want it. They want it in their fulfillment centers. All of a sudden, I don't know if you've noticed this, but for about the last year, they don't want it anymore. All of a sudden, there's all sorts of things that are happening.
No more mercy.
It's because even Amazon is starting to realize you can't scale infinitely in your infrastructure. And they're doing some really cool things kind of behind the scenes that may make fulfillment kind of version 3.0 for them even more sophisticated. But all of these things point toward the industry is going to move towards some kind of maturity. If I have to mature somewhere, I want it to be with Amazon because they're going to continue to dominate the retail market. And so here's the question. When is this move from rapid growth, jump in, doesn't matter how much it costs? When is that going to transition to, oh boy, time to make sure that we're have a tighter operation, time to make sure that we are overcoming some of the challenges? That's really the question I was hoping, Stephen, you and I could talk about a little bit in the rest of this video.
Yeah, so the when, I think there's some symptoms to that when, right?
Yeah.
Amazon's creating barriers to sell. So retail arbitrage still exists today, but it's much more difficult, right?
That's right.
And for those that don't know what that is, that's when you go to Kmart and Toys R Us when they're going out of business and going to their clearance section, buying a bunch of their toys and then listing them on Amazon. So that's gotten a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Amazon.com, when you sell first party to Amazon, they are hogging the buy box. So that's another barrier. Gating. If you want to sell in specific categories, you have to fulfill applications. Groceries gated, beauty's gated as a whole category. And then there's brand gating. And we've seen that evolve a lot over the last year or two. Hazmat. Hazmat is the biggest pain in the rear end that has come out of Amazon in the last year. Unbelievable. If you've got batteries with your selling object, Hazmat is so document heavy, approval heavy. Got a liquid. You got anything that could be flammable. Those are so they're not only are their facilities so chock full, but now they're being more selective about what they bring in. They want to bring in the right kinds of products. So these are all signs that the maturity is peaking. And some of the other signs that are less more about the barriers, but also about the benefits of giving brands better control and some of the things that brings them value. Brand registry 2.0, right? So brands now have the ability to control what their brand looks like, their catalog management. There's this thing called the storefront, right? What else have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing is brand registry is giving power to brands. The other things that we see, you're kind of talking about, what are these kind of signposts? What are these, if you were looking at a vehicle, kind of a dashboard warning that maybe time for this industry to start consolidating might be on the horizon. I would say for sure your comment about brand registry is aiding what you said a minute ago about killing the old arbitrage model. It's on its way out. You guys, everyone who's a seller knows that the Chinese sellers now make up, maybe you don't know this, they make up almost a quarter of all third-party sellers on Amazon. That's 25%, and Amazon didn't open the gate to them until I think it was Q4 of 2016 or something like that. It's unreal how quickly they have multiplied as sellers on the platform. You guys have all heard of the inventory performance score that just came out last quarter. what this is doing, this is code, by the way. You maybe didn't know the code here, but inventory performance score is code for our FBA capacity is too valuable, and we're going to force sellers to manage their businesses the way we want them to manage it. If not, we're going to charge them more for it. And so what we're seeing now amongst all these sellers is kind of a slow but a significant shift towards having a hybrid 3PL fulfillment model, where you maybe keep 2 to 3 months of your inventory in FBA and you fulfill the rest of it either yourself, or you have some kind of a staging place where you can still manage these 90 or 120-day lead times from Asia while not getting crushed by long-term storage fees at Amazon.
I like that 60 days supply at Amazon. I think that's the best practice. It prevents stockouts because 5% of the inventory you send into Amazon takes 30 days to check in. 5% of it. And that's what I've seen across the board. So I really like that 2 month supply at Amazon. But if you're ordering 1,000 units out of China and you don't sell 1,000 units in 60 days, what do you do with the rest of that inventory?
Right.
You got to put it in a warehouse. So I think your hybrid approach is exactly right.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of frustration from sellers just wanting to find good 3PL partners, right? Trying to find warehousing partners in America that are really dialed into the Amazon system. And I actually think we're going to see that happen. I think this is probably, just as a prognosticator, this is a great time to be the right 3PL, right? Those guys are going to start crushing it. The other thing that's kind of moving us towards consolidation, what I mean by consolidation is instead of having 3 million individual sellers, pretty soon we're going to have 1 million slightly larger sellers or 50,000 really big sellers. I think that's what I mean by consolidation. The other kind of, on the horizon deal is this whole Supreme Court case around sales tax. Sales tax is just one more compliance burden that makes it to where you need to have more people in your office. You need to have more of a sophisticated operation. Now, we're assuming all the states will make us comply, but assuming they do, the Supreme Court's given them the green light to do it. Sellers who haven't had to worry about this now have another headache on their plate in terms of compliance. And then I think the big thing, Stephen, that you and I were talking about the other day is just private equity firms are getting in. This is really important to notice if you're a seller out there. Private equity firms are the guys with money that come in and try to consolidate industries. They really want to hit that growth curve right as it's at the top of its kind of zooming upward. They want to catch it before it goes into maturity because they believe they can bring in the cash and infrastructure to help businesses that are doing, say, 2 million do 20 million, or businesses that are doing 10 million do 50 million. And so we're seeing that. And this is, I think, what you're seeing here recently also, Stephen, is just lots and lots of PE groups are getting into the Amazon space, which is weird. Most of the time, PE money lives in the tech space. They're looking to consolidate.
You could say Amazon is a tech piece.
That's true. It is the marriage of tech and retail, right? And so these PEs are they're standing in the sidelines, like looking for the partners to dance with. And they are, there's literally $100 million sitting out there right now waiting to be invested in Amazon businesses.
Speaking of that tech, so I'm sharing my screen again. So this is an example of a storefront that we kind of, briefly mentioned. Shout out to one of my clients called Foot Nanny. She sells some foot cream. And so this is a storefront that we built for her. And you can see on the screen here, there's video content on a storefront. To get to this, all you got to do is type in amazon.com/footnanny. So vanity URLs is something that rolled out in the last year and is really super awesome. You can see all the product selection. And this piece right here is another technology piece that's recommended from you and best sellers. These are automatically populated by a personalized engine on Amazon. So I think there are some technology pieces. The way you get to a storefront, by the way, is you click on the brand name, you type in the URL, amazon.com/brand name there, or a headline ad. So there's a lot of different pieces that are being involved here. So now you need to have somebody on staff who knows how to do creative. You need somebody on staff that knows how to do taxes. And if you don't have these pieces, it becomes increasingly more difficult to navigate the Amazon jungle, if you will. So let's say I've got capital and I want to invest today. Should I just go out and buy 5 random companies? Like, Tyler, you're a money dude. You know what to do. Like, what are the sort of things you look for when you try and acquire a company?
Yeah, these investors are really, you can make it way too complicated. They're looking for 2 things. They're looking for free cash flow, and they're looking for risk factors that might make that cash flow be questionable. So when we're coaching us, a lot of what we do at Seller Accountant is help these smaller brands prepare to sell, those that decide they want to go ahead and exit. help them optimize their accounting, optimize their financial performance so they can get top dollar. And the thing that's been really cool is to see the multiples go up. So when you look at a merger or acquisition world, you're going to get your income, your whatever you want to call it, seller's discretionary earnings, operating income, and you're going to get a multiple of your annual earnings. And those earning multiples are continuing to press up. They used to be, 1, 2, 3 times earnings, and now we're seeing 3, sometimes 4 times earnings. I think that's just evidence again that the market is hot. It's hot for acquisitions, and it's going to continue to get hotter. But if I were a seller, I would want to have my financial performance really clean. In other words, I want to actually be.
You were a seller and you were looking to sell, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I would want to make sure that I am really profitable, that my numbers are improving. And I would want to make sure that my accounting is really, really good so that a prospective investor could really quickly look at my books and say, yeah, that's believable. That's a story that I'll believe, because I've seen deals fall apart really quickly when, say, there was actually a deal that fell apart a few months ago when the seller just forgot that he had another credit card that he did advertising on and just left out, about half of his advertising expense for a few months.
Hey, your advertising costs, they went down this month. That looks incredible. You guys are smart.
Yeah, the timing was perfect. It killed the deal. Those guys walked away with no money. And so that's where you just really want to make sure that you're organized if you're going to sell your business.
So if you're a seller, you got a few choices, right? So choice number 1, sell. And I think that's what you just covered and kind of why you'd want to, how you'd go about doing that. Choice number 2 is scale and bring in other companies and buy somebody else. So you're acquiring somebody else. And I think the other option is you can just add more product within your own company and bring in more resources. You might have to poach some people, poach other people who have done well on Amazon. But at the end of the day, you're gonna need a person in every single one of these categories, just like a regular brick and mortar business, right? So
that's right.
Every office has got somebody who does the accounting. Every office has somebody that takes care of generating traffic, marketing, and sales. And everybody has somebody that takes care of the logistics. Like, those are the 3 components that every company ever always has. And then within those categories, there's obviously additional segments like customer service. So back in the day, Amazon claimed, hey, sell on our platform, we'll take care of the customer service. It's not really how it works, of course. You still have to interact with your customer, even if you're sending your stuff into FBA. So kind of pivoting a little bit, a couple of things. If I was somebody out there looking to buy business, the advice I would give you is there are certain types of businesses that are better to buy than others. So Tyler gave you the perspective on the bottom line, make sure the books are clean, et cetera. The perspective I'd like to add to that is the model that they use. So you're going to want to have somebody who has some sort of value built into their business in several ways. So number 1, if they're a dropship business, that model is kind of dying right now. And there's nothing that would protect your business if you bought somebody's dropship model. And what do I mean by dropship? That means that you don't possess the inventory and you're shipping from somebody else. And you might be one of many sellers of that inventory. There's really no brand equity there, right? No company equity, rather. So I would avoid dropship purchases. The kind of companies I would go out and look for is somebody who's got a trademark on their brand, who's got the brand registry set up on Amazon. That means you're on the principal trademark registry, by the way. Sometimes you're not on the main one, and that can be a challenge. There's a lot of value to that. The other things I would look for is, are you an exclusive seller in a category, or do you have some brand that's built that's got thousands of reviews on Amazon? Those are things that are very valuable. If you're just selling a commodity product, you're selling that classic apple slicer, and everybody and their dogs has got that. Why would a consumer buy your apple slicer versus somebody else's? Right? Is it sharper? I don't know. I mean, there's how many feature ads are there? Versus if you've got a company where the product has been used and there's a cult following and a brand following, those are the kinds of things that make a company super valuable. The other thing too is product selection and category growth, right? So, I have a perspective on this. I want to pick your brain on this, Tyler. Would you rather own a brand that has 4 to 8 deep SKUs, or would you rather own a brand that has 50 SKUs that are somewhat equal?
Yeah, that's a good question. Personally, I think I like a more focused brand that are
Me too.
that's really deep because it's easier. Like you said this really well. If you were ever wanting to exit, the things that are those risk factors that investors kind of lose sleep about are how much risk is there in your SKU diversity. You mentioned IP. You mentioned having some exclusivity. You mentioned as much as we love drop shipping as a simple, accountants love drop shipping, right? It makes the accounting really simple. It's a business model that is really easy to infiltrate. So that's the question you have to think about it almost like a military general. How easy would it be for somebody else to take my ground here and defeat this outpost that I'm trying to defend, which is my little corner of Amazon? And I think having deep, really having some good social proof. You mentioned all the reviews, having lots of depth, having lots of kind of affirmation that your design is good, having things be really optimized so that they ship in as small a container as possible, having the most profitable, smaller number of SKUs. 4 is a little small, but if I had to pick between 4 and 50, I'd go with the 4.
Me too. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. That's potentially less hassle on customs, less hassle in manufacturing, less hassle in merchandising, marketing, graphics, you name it. The list goes on and on. Generally speaking, your top 20% of products or 80% of your sales, that kind of 20-80 rule, if you will, is very typical. But also it's much easier to compete. So, after having my agency ramp up and getting access to dozens and dozens of accounts, the story of success that I've repeatedly seen is a love and affection for a handful of SKUs. And the companies that have thousands of SKUs deep in a catalog are mature companies, don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, they still end up focusing on their breadwinners, if you will.
And the exception there would be a company who maybe sells apparel and has lots of SKUs because there are lots of color and size variations. But even in those situations, you see brand managers. I literally talked to a company last week that has 5,400 SKUs, but their brand managers are really focused on 5 concepts. I mean, isn't that amazing? 5,000 SKUs, they really have 5 concepts, and they're continuing to build their brand around those 5 concepts. And they're crushing it as a result because they're one of the most sophisticated players we've ever seen in the space. But yeah, I mean, you said it really well there, Stephen. I mean, you're getting your idea focused, having some kind of a process for testing new products, killing the ones that stink. You can't fall so in love with your baby that you can't let it go. And then really cultivating those few killer SKUs that are going to be profitable for the long haul, and always having your eye on something that's maybe coming down the pike, which is, I think, why we were talking about, your options. Selling is one. Finding ways to automate is another thing. Whether you want to try to, I guess, live on the beach and do the 4-hour work week kind of thing.
Well, that's the pipe dream. Everybody's doing it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no one actually works a full-time job, but there are ways that you can remove yourself as a cog from the business and automate it, and that may be a way to enjoy more profitability now. That's in some ways, that's kind of the play. Automating your business is kind of saying, well, if the big guys come in and gobble everyone up, I don't really care. I'm going to ride this thing into the waves, if you will, over the next couple of years, and I'm going to enjoy my life. But I'm also going to free up my brain to be thinking about what my next product might be or what my next brand might be.
There's a lot of ways you could automate the business, right? So you could get people that you franchise your idea out and you get people to run it, right? So you can automate with people. You can also automate with technologies. So, a couple of technologies, I really like them. Celix is a new tool I've started to onboard a bunch of clients with. Celix has automated advertising control. So something that's been in the Google and AdWords space for a decade is now coming to Amazon. So Amazon allows third parties to API. This is a white hat tactic, by the way. So if anybody out there is watching this and wondering, can I use this for your company? Absolutely. Amazon's totally cool with it. Amazon's a customer-centric platform. They don't really want to be in the business of building software and technology for sellers. So as a result, they do allow third parties to come in and service sellers on that side. But right now, most companies just kind of set up an automated advertising campaign on Amazon, and they waste spend, they waste money, right? And if you want to start competing with all these other companies that are getting more sophisticated, you need to start bringing in technology pieces. So you need to automate your advertising. You need to watch your profits. So if you don't have a tool right now that tells you your profit by product, you need to talk to somebody, or you need to get a technology in place to calculate that, right? And so a tool like Celix can help out with that. If you don't know your keywords that are the best performing, you need a tool. You need a technology piece. Now, a tool that everybody mostly knows about, especially in the private label world, is called Jungle Scout. That helps you figure out how a product is selling. If you're a person looking to buy a business, Jungle Scout should be the first tool you pay for, because you can go out there and figure out the size and the virality of a product or a brand with a click of a button. I know that this product is pushing 500 units a month. So when you get on those calls and you're talking to the seller, you already know. You don't even need to look at their books. Now, you should look at their books to verify the technology is giving you an accurate statement, but those are the kinds of tools that can really help you find and figure out if a business is doing well. One last tool I'll give a shout out to is called Feedback Genius. Brandon Checkitts over at Seller Labs, great guy. Both Tyler and I know him. And they have an automation for email. They also have some other tools at Seller Labs to check out. But the thing I like about the automation of email is, you're getting feedback from customers, which help your product reviews and your seller reviews, and you can automatically connect with that customer. It comes off as an automated email, but as long as you set it up with some value add propositions, like, hey, if you're selling tweezers, and here's a guide on how to buy the right kind of tweezers, and here's the best way to use our tweezers, that's kind of a value add that can help with an automation. Any tools you want to throw in, Tyler?
Those are the ones that I definitely use. The Seller Labs tools. Jungle Scout's amazing. You've just introduced me to Celix. I can't wait to check those guys out. It seems like they're really there's a free tool out there called Keepa that a friend of mine turned me on to, Keepa.
I like that one too.
Which is a pretty easy Chrome extension for just seeing some of the volume trends on products on Amazon. So that one has been helpful. In fact, it's actually been used in some of our acquisition discussions, because you can. So here's what happens: kind of a case study. You stock out of your 3 best SKUs in the middle of October, so you don't have them for 2 or 3 weeks during Q4. If you can go back to your investor and say, "Hey, look, you can see where I didn't have inventory for these months. I should get a little bit of a higher valuation because now I've bought a lot more inventory going into this Q4."
Yep.
Sometimes you can use context clues like Keepa to build a story that helps an investor say, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can buy into that."
I really like where you went with that, because how do you value something, right? So like in an ever-changing Amazon ecosystem, that value changes rapidly, right? Some things get more valuable, other things get less valuable. And so having a quantifiable way to express value when you're going out to acquire businesses or to sell your own is a great technique. So I absolutely love that. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the inevitability of the maturing of the marketplace. I feel like we've hit that home. Let's end on a prediction. When do you think this maturity is going to take place? Now, we're obviously already seeing it, but like, when do you think it's going to hit some peak, if you will?
Yeah, I think this is an amazing time, especially to own a brand and to be an owner of an Amazon business. If I had to prognosticate on this, I would say the next 18 to maybe 36 months, we're going to wake up at the end of 2020 or 2021 and say, wow, what just happened? There was massive consolidation in the third-party marketplace world. And all this really means is to kind of turn this into a practical thing for the people who are watching this video. You just need to think now. There's no wrong answer to this. Whether you want to try to sit tight, whether you want to try to exit, whether you want to try to scale, whether you want to try to automate your business, just know that the kind of classic adage, if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time. Now is the moment, believing that the next year to 2 to 3 are going to be critical. To have your dream in line, understand your goal for the next 36 months, and take the concrete steps to get your account in order. It's really, Stephen, what I feel like you're the expert in, is just helping people optimize their Amazon presence. What Seller Accountant does is help people optimize their financial performance, so that if you need to raise money, you can raise money. If you are looking to exit, you can get top multiple. If you are looking to bring on business partners to scale, you can do that. Having clarity in your performance is key.
So I've got Tyler's website up here. So if you want to get information, or if you need help going out and acquiring businesses and you want someone to look at the books, Tyler's a great guy to talk to. So you can go to selleraccountant.com. I'm on the contact us page. You can send Tyler a reach out. Simultaneously, if you want help in evaluating a business should I get into this, you can go to myamazonguy.com. Or if you've got a business and you want help scaling it, those are things that I can help you out with as well. So we appreciate you watching the video. Both Tyler and I are putting our names on this. We believe that the maturing of the Amazon ecosystem is here, and that the outcome of that is that people are going to go out and they're going to buy some businesses. And so they're going to merge some Amazon accounts together, and they're going to make everything come into a larger house, with the outcome being more profits for those companies that do this, and more sophistication. And the customer also will come out ahead on this, because then they're able to do more things for the consumer, more product, better services to service that product, better customer experience, better customer service teams, et cetera, et cetera. So Tyler, any closing thoughts from you?
I think that's it, buddy. Thanks for having me today. This has been fun.
All right. Well, great. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you watching. And, you can get a hold of Tyler at selleraccountant.com or me at myamazonguy.com. Thanks.